The coming of the Antichrist. Yesterday I explained how the rapture will happen, for as soon as the trumpet began to resonate, there were natural disasters that began to happen in a global scale. On that day when the archangel sounded the trumpet, I saw the earth that began to shake. There were earthquakes all over the world, the mountains were removed from their place, the earth was wailing and the sea went beyond their limit. I heard the sea announcing the return of the Lord. The uttermost part of the earth knew that a global event has happened and people have disappeared in millions. When the trumpet of God was sounded, there were planes crashed. Normally people die when there is a plane crash. However, the Lord told me when the trumpet will sound on that day, death will run away from humanity. Thus people will not die when planes crashed happen as a result of the sound of the trumpet. The moment the bride of Christ is taken, death was removed for a certain period. And when the church was raptured, I saw a world without the Comforter, a humanity without God. I saw Christians that were left behind and the unbeliever. People sought consolation in the Bible, but it was just a letter without spirit. There was desolation and people were crying all over the place desperately. There were lamentation everywhere. Now that the church was gone, I wondered what will happen to the people that were left behind in desolation. Churches were full of believer and unbeliever. This was a revival happening in the world, and people hoped for the second blast of the trumpet, and they were praying to God for the second blast of the trumpet, but the Lord said, "It's too late, there is no second blast of the trumpet. Those who are left behind will save themselves through their own effort. They will have to endure the torture of the Antichrist. These believers will have to save themselves through their blood, for my blood is not valid anymore and my sacrifice on the cross is finished." The arrival of the Antichrist, the man of sin. Immediately after the departure of the church and the Holy Spirit from the earth, an infernal man appeared in the world. This leader rose in the global stage. This man was the Antichrist, the enemy of Christ. The Lord showed me the spirit of this man. When the Lord opened my eyes, I saw that this leader had many feet and many hands, and he had the head of a snake. In fact, he had 7 heads. On one of his head it was written 666. The Lord said, "Whoever is marked with this number is condemned and separated forever from God." There were lamentation and desolation all over the world when this man rose in the global stage. This leader began to address the world population, trying to comfort them. He said to the nations, "Why are you crying, my children? Comfort yourself. You must ignore the king of these Christians who took his people." I saw that in his speech the Antichrist was not mentioning the name of Jesus Christ. He was calling him the King of Christians. This man told the world, "It is actually a good thing that the Master of Christians took his people with him and left us the world. Therefore comfort yourself. There is no point for lamentation. The world must get back to normality and enjoy. What matter is that you go back to normal life and have fun. I have to come comfort and console my children, and I have come to give you peace. Therefore comfort yourself." The Lord said to me, immediately after the rise of the church in the rapture, in that confusion, the Antichrist will seek to win the trust of the world, trying to restore stability. He will come like a kind man, like a comforter. He will pretend that he came to give peace to the world. I saw that the world was running to him. He kept telling them, "My children, there is no need to cry because of the King of Christians came to take his people. Behold, look at the earth, there is so much space for humanity. Let these Christians leave the earth with their king. We have to have fun and enjoy life. We have the whole earth for us." At this stage it was globalism. There was no independent nation, there was no continent anymore, for there was universal and global government. The people of the world went to this leader, for he had won their trust. I saw during the Great Tribulation that the world population were calling the Antichrist the beloved father, for he was a father for the world that was shocked because of the disappearing of millions. Brother and sister, it will be a terrible time. The people of the world shall be one, under the leadership of the man of sin. Brother, when the Antichrist saw that the world have given him trust, he began to publish new laws for his rule. This enemy of Christ came up with laws that were published all over the world. And when the world received the Antichrist, he went on to show his true face. It was something never seen before. The Antichrist manifested with his soldiers. These were soldiers that had human face, but their body were that of a ferocious beast. I am not talking about earthly animal like lion, elephant or leopard. These were infernal animal and demon. This leader rose globally and he was accompanied with beast who had human face. These were ferocious hybrid animal with human face. When the Antichrist came, I saw that the world was full of demonic animal. They were hybrid demon all over the world and they were visible to the world population. It was calamity and terror, brother. I saw beast emerging from the underground like a mountain all over the world. I saw behind the Antichrist wherever he was going beastly soldiers were following him. I saw countless demon behind him following him. Brothers, they were millions of demons that came with him. He was glorious when he was addressing all the inhabitant of the earth. He told the world in the media, whoever want to continue to live normal life on the earth must receive the sign 666. The Lord said this mark means condemned, separated and lost forever. The Antichrist said the sign is mandatory. Everybody is obligated to bear this sign. When the Antichrist came, he assembled the people of the world to receive his mark. I saw that the demons of the Antichrist had machine that were pointed to people's forehead. As a result, the mark was appearing on their forehead, which means they were condemned, separated and lost forever. I saw crowds all over the world assemble in order to receive the mark, and those who refused to receive the mark were accused and exposed by their neighbor, friend and family member, and demons of the Antichrist came to arrest them. Then universal currency was introduced to the world. There was no more American dollar, no more euro or any other currency of the world. It was only the Antichrist dollar which had his face that was in circulation, and when people went to the bank to get the money, they were compelled to get the mark of the beast, otherwise they won't be able to get their money, and when they got their money it had the face of the Antichrist, the enemy of God. I saw the Antichrist saying to the people of the world in the media, "My children, even if you don't have money in your account, just go to the bank, they will give you the money. All you need is the mark 666, those who refuse my mark are not allowed to live on this earth. They shall not have food, water and electricity. They shall not use public transport and plane." Moral decadence in the Great Tribulation. During the reign of the Antichrist on the earth there was extreme sexual immorality. People respected nothing and they lost their morality. I saw that the Antichrist was organizing spectacles and show for the people of the world. These show and spectacle was called the best kisser. I saw men and women having sex in public places before all. The people were doing sexual demonstration in this sexual contest, and the members of the public were watching, clapping and encouraging them, saying, "Come on, go." There was rebellion and incredible immorality. I saw 10 couples that were having sex like that in the street and people were watching, clapping and applauding them. I saw that the couple that did better was rewarded and decorated. The world had reached an unacceptable level of sexual immorality. The Antichrist said to the world, "You do not need to do it in the bed. When you are in the market you can do it there in the market. You can do it in the street." And I saw that people were having sex everywhere in public places. People had sex in the street, in the workplace, in shopping center in broad daylight before the crowds, and they were applauded. No one was offended and complaining. Moreover, I saw man and woman having sex with animal, and I saw the Antichrist applauding, and people were also applauding. The world was not like today. You cannot imagine the reign of the Antichrist. You must make sure that you are raptured when the trumpet will resonate, in order to be spared from the great tribulation. Those who oppose the mark they would not hide. They shall be located and tortured by physical demon of the Antichrist. When you go to the market the seller will check whether you have the mark or not. When you have the mark you will be given the food or accessory you came to buy, even if you don't have money, for the world was one. There was no country and continent, and the Antichrist was the beloved father of all, the fortress of the Antichrist and the torture of left behind Christian. I saw that during the reign of the Antichrist there were Christians who were resisting the mark. They decided not to take it. They knew that they will be condemned, separated forever from God. When the Antichrist came to the world, he went to build a place that was surrounded by a wall. It was called the fortress, and inside the fortress there were demonic beasts of all kind. These hybrid demon were soldiers of the Antichrist. They were half man half animals. Believers that were left behind and were refusing to take the mark were rounded up, and they were thrown in the fortress, where they were beast, scorpion that were biting devouring them alive since they could not die. And I heard children of God crying, and they said, "Where is death? Why are we not dying?" In the aftermath of the rapture, death will flee so that the people who will refuse the mark can be tormented with no possibility of death. The torment of hell will be brought to the surface, and I saw in this period death was physical and visible. He was personified in a body and people were able to see him. Death was often coming to the fortress of the Antichrist to take one person only, where people were tormented and seeking death. In this fortress of torture countless Christians sought death because of unbearable torment. I saw a demon who a scorpion eating the leg of believer that were left behind. Then these believers were asked if they can now the mark. When they said no, their ears were cut by these scorpion who had human face. Since these believers refused to get the mark, the torture was increase, and ferocious beast came to eat and devour their body and stomach while they were still alive. In the fortress of the Antichrist I saw the people who were thinner than captive of Nazis' concentration camp. They were far more thinner than you could imagine. In truth they were supposed to die, but death has flee from them. The world population were denouncing Christians who were gathering in secret. They were believers who were hopeful that the second trumpet will sound, and the Antichrist demonic soldiers who are beasts were all over the place in search of believers. Yet the Lord said, "Those who are left behind will save their soul through their blood and their own sacrifice. They shall lay down their life to save themselves." I saw how people were tormented in the fortress of the Antichrist, and it was inhuman and unbearable. Left behind believer, I saw believers who were wondering, and they said, "Why are we left behind? We should have rise. We should not have been here." I saw a church leader and his members. They went to see the Antichrist. The pastor said to him, "Beloved Father, why am I left behind? I should not be here." The Antichrist replied, "Have you forgotten the kind of life you were living?" I saw the Antichrist making a sign and a TV appeared. The life of this leader was projected on the screen. When the life of this leader was projected, I saw that he was sleeping with ladies of the church. The Antichrist said, "Is it because your father is the founder of the church that you have to sleep with women coming to your church? You are living in sexual impurity, that is why you are left behind." Then I saw a deacon who was dealing with the church money. He went to see the Antichrist and he said, "I was living in holiness and I was always checking my life. Why am I left behind?" Brother, there are hidden sin that may cause you to be left behind. I saw that when the trumpet sounded, the angels of God were inspecting the deacon white garment with some kind of detector. When they reach his pocket, the detector starts to ring. When the detector began to beep, the angels check the garment again, and they saw that it was white, but the pocket of the garment were dotted. Yet the Bible say our garment must be exempt from stain and dot. I saw why his garment was stained. One day the man was counting the church money and he stole some money, but he gave a false report. The Lord said, "Grace, sir, many church deacon and money counter will miss the rapture because of money. On that day when the trumpet sound, our white garment will be scanned. A stain and a dot is enough to disqualify us. The angels will scan our garment again and again." Brother, you know the life you are living. I always say there are three people who know you. You are the one who know your life. You can pretend, give false appearance, you may lie to people vigilance, but you know your hidden life. We know our life and we know sin that are hidden in our lives. God know your life and demon also know your life, and they will be ready to accuse you on that day. People kept coming to see the Antichrist who was telling them why they were left behind and their stain were revealed, but when they were about to go, they were proposed to receive the mark. Since they refused the mark, they were taken to the fortress of torture, where I saw beast and demon torturing people who had became thin. I saw people who were eaten and devour. They were skeletal and bones, but life was in them, for there was no death. These beasts were crunching their bones, but they were not dead. It was then I saw death appearing suddenly in the fortress. When the angel of death came, he landed inside the fortress where believers were tormented. When these believers saw death in the fortress, they all ran to meet death, and they were begging death to take their lives. The Lord said, "In the great tribulation death will become proud, for people will seek death, but he will flee from people." Death was checking believers in the fortress in order to identify who was worthy to die. I saw that he was surrounded by believers who were crying and begging him to take them. I saw death seeking a believer among the countless that would detain in the fortress of the Antichrist. He only took one life among the many. What is painful is that I saw a believer who had endured torture. They endure up to a point where they could not bear the torture anymore. They agreed to receive the mark of the Antichrist. They got the mark. They were condemned and separated forever from the Lord. For the torture was deep for them. When these believers accepted to get the mark, they were taken out of the fortress and presented to the people. The Antichrist came and said to the people, "Some of the rebel have repented and have become gentle," and the Antichrist gave the mark to these believers who had decided to abandon their faith. People were applauding for these believers that have received the mark. In truth, the torment were unbearable. The Antichrist told these believers, "You did the right thing because there were more intense torture ahead. What you went through was just the beginning, but more unbearable pain was on the wait for you. You would not have been able to bear it, brother. The tribulation will be a terrible time. You got to make sure you are raptured with the blast of the trumpet, for atrocious torture are awaiting those who will be left behind. You better be among those who will rise in the rapture. We must avoid the rule of the Antichrist. It will be hell on earth. Nothing should separate you from the love of God. Be strong in the Lord." The mark of the beast means you are condemned and separated from your God. Then I saw the Antichrist decorating and honoring demons that work for him. All the bad things happening in the world are caused by demons. Check your life and see if there are still things that condemn you.